The morning my son asked me to leave my own house, I was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee from the same blue mug Rebecca gave me on our wedding day. 31 years that mug had sat in that kitchen. My son Daniel walked in slowly, sat across from me, stared at the table between us like it was something he needed to study carefully. He could not look me in the eye. "Dad," he said quietly, "we need to talk." I had been expecting those words for almost 3 weeks. I set the mug down carefully, picked up my phone, and smiled. "All right, Daniel," I said, "let's talk. But first, let me tell you how we got here. Because this story did not start that morning. It started 39 years ago, on an empty lot on Carpenter Street, with a 28-year-old man, a set of blueprints, and 2 hands that were not afraid of work. The summer of 1987, I poured the foundation of that house myself, framed every wall, laid every floor, ran the electrical, installed the plumbing. My wife Rebecca brought sandwiches to the site every day at noon, our baby Daniel asleep in a carrier on her chest, both of them watching me work. 14 months from empty lot to front door. The day we moved in, Rebecca stood in the living room surrounded by boxes and looked at the walls I had built with my own hands and cried quietly. "Robert," she said, "this is ours. Nobody can ever take this from us." She was right. The deed was recorded in my name alone. Daniel had never contributed a single dollar toward the mortgage. Not because I asked him to. I never asked. I paid for that house myself every month for 12 years, until the morning in 1999 when I made the final payment and sat at that same kitchen table and felt something I had never felt before. Complete. Rebecca passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to the end. I held her hand every single day. After she was gone, the house felt enormous for one person. Her reading glasses still sat on the small table in her sewing room. I never moved them. Her photograph, silver frame, our 25th anniversary. Daniel had given it to us as a gift. Hung on the living room wall beside the fireplace exactly where she had placed it. I kept everything exactly as it was. So when Daniel called and asked if he and his new wife Sandra could move in, just temporarily, just while they saved for their own place, I said yes immediately. He was my son. This was his home too. I believed things would be fine. That was before I understood who Sandra was. Sandra was pleasant the first month. The second month, she rearranged Rebecca's kitchen without mentioning it. Moved the dishes, reorganized the pantry. I came downstairs one morning and stood in my own kitchen not knowing where anything was. I said nothing. Young couples need space to settle. The third month, she told me my bedroom television was too loud after 9 o'clock. I lowered the volume, said nothing. Then one evening, I walked into the living room and stopped. The wall beside the fireplace looked wrong. Rebecca's photograph was gone. In its place hung a watercolor painting. Pale flowers. Something impersonal and cheap. I stood very still for a moment. Then I took the painting down carefully. Put it in the hallway closet. Placed Rebecca's photograph back in its exact position on the wall. Said nothing to anyone. The next morning, the photograph was gone again. The painting was back. I replaced the photograph a second time. Still said nothing. The following morning, I came downstairs and found Rebecca's photograph lying face down on the kitchen counter, like a piece of mail someone had set aside to deal with later. I picked it up, held it. Then I walked upstairs and knocked on Daniel's door. He opened it half asleep. "The photograph in the living room," I said. "If it moves one more time, I need you to handle it. Do you understand?" He looked confused. Which photograph? He genuinely did not know. In that moment, I understood something important. Sandra was not doing these things carelessly. She was doing them quietly, systematically, and she was keeping Daniel completely uninformed. That told me everything I needed to know. 2 weeks later, Sandra sat me down at my own kitchen table. Her mother, Carol, was having financial difficulties. She needed a place to stay. Just temporarily, just a few months. I looked at Daniel. He looked at the table. I said yes. Because Daniel was my son. And because I was still willing to extend good faith to people who had not yet fully exhausted it. Carol arrived the following Saturday with 11 large boxes, a small cat Sandra had never once mentioned, and an attitude that made clear from the first hour that she did not consider herself a guest. By Sunday evening, she had rearranged the living room furniture. By Tuesday, she informed me that my habit of making coffee at 6 in the morning was disruptive to the household.
By the following weekend, she had relocated my toiletries from the main bathroom into the hallway cabinet and arranged her own cosmetics across the shelf I had used for 30 years. I said nothing. I am 67 years old. I have buried a wife. I built a business. I survived things that would break most men. I do not argue with house guests about bathroom shelves. But I watch. I listen. And I remember everything. 3 weeks after Carol arrived, I came home early from a doctor's appointment. The house seemed quiet. I assumed no one was home. I was wrong. As I came down the hallway, I heard Daniel's voice from the bedroom. He was on the phone. The door was slightly open. I don't know, Sandra. What if he gets upset? A pause while he listened. I know. Just tell him it's about his health. Tell him a smaller place is easier to manage. Don't make it sound like it's about Mom. Another pause. Okay, I'll talk to him tonight. I stood completely still. My son, being given a script, word by word, on how to remove his father from his father's home. I did not say anything. I walked back to the kitchen, sat down at the table, picked up my phone, and called James Whitfield. James had been my attorney for 22 years. He handled my business contracts, drew up my will, managed Rebecca's estate when she passed. More than a lawyer, a genuine friend, a man I trusted completely. James, I need a favor. Can you come to the house Thursday evening, 6 o'clock? Bring the deed to the property and anything related to guest occupancy under state law. Everything all right, Robert? It will be, I said. By Thursday evening, it will be. 2 days later, Daniel knocked on my bedroom door. He came in, sat in the chair by the window, Rebecca's reading chair. He did not look at me. Dad, Sandra and I have been talking. With Carol here, things are cramped. We were thinking maybe a smaller apartment would actually be better for you. Easier to manage at your age. We could help you find something, help you move. I let him finish every word. Then I looked at him calmly. You want me to leave my house, Daniel. It's not really about whose house. It is exactly about whose house, I said quietly. But don't worry. I've already made a call. I'll handle it. He looked relieved. He genuinely believed I had agreed. I had not agreed to anything. I cooked pot roast, Rebecca's Sunday recipe, the one that took 4 hours and made the whole house smell like the best version of itself. I set the table for 4, properly, the way Rebecca always insisted. James arrived at 6 exactly. He shook my hand at the door, took off his coat, set his briefcase down in the hallway. When Sandra saw him, she looked immediately uncomfortable. Who is this? Please sit down, I said. Everyone, sit down. Carol came in from the living room slowly, looked at James, looked at me. We all sat. This is James Whitfield, I said.
He has been my personal attorney and my friend for 22 years. I asked him here tonight, informally, as a friend, because I want everyone at this table to have exactly the same information at exactly the same time. James opened his briefcase, removed 2 documents, and placed them both on the table. This first document, he said calmly, is the deed to this property. It is recorded solely in the name of Robert Eugene Patterson. There are no other names on this document. No co-owners, no mortgage, no liens of any kind. This property belongs entirely and exclusively to Mr. Patterson. Nobody spoke. This second document, James continued, is a formal 30-day notice of termination of guest occupancy. It has been prepared in accordance with state law and is addressed to 3 individuals currently residing in this property without a lease agreement: Daniel Patterson, Sandra Patterson, and Carol Jenkins. Carol's mouth opened. This notice does not mean anyone must leave tonight, James said. It establishes the legal record that Mr. Patterson has exercised his right as sole property owner to formally notify all guests of the terms of their occupancy. Under state law, this document protects Mr. Patterson's ownership rights regardless of how long any individual has been residing here. He folded his hands on the table. To be completely clear, Mrs. Carol Jenkins has no legal standing whatsoever in this property. Her presence here exists solely because Mr. Patterson permitted it. That permission can end with proper notice, which has now been given. The room was absolutely silent. Sandra stared at the deed. Carol stared at her own name on the notice. Daniel stared at his hands on the table. I spoke quietly. I am not asking anyone to pack tonight. That is not why James is here. I looked at Carol. But I want it understood clearly and permanently. This is my home. I built it with my hands. I paid for it myself. My wife and I raised our son here. Her memory is in every room of this house. I looked at Sandra. I welcomed you here. I welcomed your mother here. In return, I was told, carefully, with practiced words, that I should find a smaller apartment, something easier for a man my age to manage. I looked at my son. I have one request, just one. Rebecca's photograph goes back on the wall beside the fireplace tonight. Her sewing room goes back exactly as it was. Her chair, her quilts, her reading glasses on the table where she left them. I stood up. Dinner is on the stove. Help yourselves. I put on my jacket and walked out to the back porch. I sat in the same wooden chair I had sat in for 30 years. The oak tree Rebecca and I planted the year Daniel was born stood in the center of the yard. Its branches were turning gold in the October evening light. It was taller now than the roof line. Solid. Immovable. I sat there for a long time. The back door opened quietly behind me. Daniel came out. He did not sit. He stood beside my chair with his hands in his pockets and looked at the oak tree. Dad, sit down, son. He sat on the edge of the porch steps. I heard you on the phone, I said, 3 days ago, in the bedroom hallway. He closed his eyes slowly. She told me what to say, how to say it. She said to make it sound like I was worried about you. I know. I knew it was wrong. I knew it before I even walked into your room, and I did it anyway. Yes, I said, you did. He was quiet for a moment. Carol is leaving. Sandra already called her sister in Bakersville. She can stay there. All right. And Sandra and I are going to find our own apartment. We should have done that from the beginning. I looked at the oak tree.
You were born the spring we planted that tree, I said. Your mother carried you outside 3 days after you came home from the hospital, held you up in the sunlight, said she wanted the two of you to grow up together. He looked at it. Neither of us spoke for a while. You don't have to leave, Daniel, I said finally. This is your home. It will always be your home. I know, but I need to build my own, the way you built yours. I nodded slowly. We sat there until the stars came out. A father and his son, a porch, an oak tree. The quiet understanding that some lessons cannot be taught, they can only be lived. Carol moved out on day 11. Over the following 2 weeks, my phone recorded 47 missed calls. Every single one from Carol. I answered none of them. Daniel and Sandra found an apartment across town 6 weeks later. Moving day, Daniel made 3 trips to the truck. On the final trip, he came back inside and stood in the living room doorway. He looked at Rebecca's photograph on the wall beside the fireplace. Silver frame, 25th anniversary. Exactly where it had always been. You really built all of this yourself, he said. Every wall. Every wall, I said. He crossed the room and shook my hand. Then he pulled me into a hug. Long and firm. The kind of hug that carries an apology inside it. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. Go take care of your wife. After he left, I walked through the house slowly, room by room. Rebecca's sewing room was exactly as it had always been. Her quilts folded in the closet, her chair beside the window, her reading glasses on the small table where she had set them down for the last time 4 years ago. I sat in her chair. Outside the window, the oak tree stood solid and golden in the late afternoon light. 40 years ago, a young man with 2 good hands and no fear of hard work had built something permanent on an empty lot on Carpenter Street. Something that would last. Something that carried the memory of the woman he loved in every wall, every floor, every room. My wife had been right. Nobody could take it from us. Nobody ever would. Rest easy, Rebecca. The house is still ours. It always will be. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's Story, because here, betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks. And every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.